What's going on, Broncos country? Welcome to game day. This is it. We've been waiting for this all week. It is here. Broncos are 6-5 going against the Texans, who are also 6-5. Both teams vying for a playoff spot. I think one team has a little bit more toughness and strength than the other, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. Guys, my name is Kev Dan. Welcome to Bourbon, Broncos, and OWBN. This is the Tailgate Talk. We're going to break down the inactives today. We're going to hear from you guys. We're going to look and see what some of the matchups are for us to watch. But in 1 hour, guys, kickoff is set to happen down in Houston, and the Broncos will be looking to help secure one of the first playoff berths, the first playoff berth they've had since 2015. Guys, still lots of football to play. This is only one game. We still have 5 more games after this, but this one's huge. So get in the comments. Let me know what you guys think, guys, and hit that share button for me. But welcome to Bourbon, Broncos, and OWBN, the Tailgate Talk. Here we go, guys. Orange Weekly. Fans, brews, and Broncos news. Well, guys, here we are. Like I said, it is game day. I'm ready to break this down all with you guys. Make sure you put in the comments what your score prediction is. I'll give mine near the end of the game or near the end of the show. Remember, if you guys guess the score correctly and the Broncos win, you guys will win some awesome swag from us here at Orange Weekly for both our own stuff and then some Broncos swag as well. But, guys, it is time to go. We got a lot to talk about. First off is the health of the teams. Looking at the inactives list both teams just came out with, essentially both teams are looking fairly healthy, guys. The biggest one for the Broncos, really nobody. Nate Atkins, okay. Big news coming off of IR. Brandon Johnson, wide receiver for the Broncos, who we haven't seen since Green Bay, actually since maybe it was the Green Bay game. He is back. So we got a big wide receiver back. You remember what he did in week 2 against Washington. I know we don't play that clip very much with the Hail Mary attempt at the end of the game because we ended up losing. But Brandon Johnson is back. That's going to be huge for our wide receiver core. Looking at the Texans inactives list, Case Keenum's not active, so I don't know what that tells you. I mean, they're healthy. They're healthy too. And that's something that we're going to have to worry about today. Let's see here. ESPN is giving the Broncos about a 45% chance to win the game versus, 55% chance to Texans. Now, I want to talk about this for a second. I don't know what ESPN is smoking. I really don't, guys. And this should be frustrating to you guys, all Broncos fans as well. Let's look at the last 6 opponents for both teams, and I'm going to pull up my screen here, guys, just because I think that's probably better than me trying to describe it to y'all. But the last few games for both teams, I think it's ridiculous just how much they're saying that the Texans are, this top-notch, all-amazing team here. Let's look at this. Okay, let's go back 6 weeks ago. The Texans lost to Carolina. Are you serious? The Texans lost to Carolina. Okay? That says a lot. Like, look, I know we lost to the Raiders and we lost to Washington beginning of the season. Okay, this is 6 weeks ago. This is when we started our run, and this is where the Texans dropped a game to Carolina. That says a lot. Okay, Tampa Bay. Woo, you beat Tampa Bay by 2 points. Look, I know a win's a win, but it's Tampa Bay. They are not doing anything great this year. Oh, look, the Texans beat the Cincinnati, a playoff contender, right? No, without Joe Burrow, the Cincinnati is not anything worth being scared of at all. Great, whoop-de-doo, you barely beat Cincinnati on the road. Cool. Oh, look, you beat Arizona. The Texans beat Arizona, another crap team in the NFL. What do you know? And then, of course, they lost by a few to Jacksonville. So, I don't know. This team does not look scary to me on paper. I don't care what their stats are. I don't care that CJ Stroud is 20 for 5 or whatever the case is, and he's thrown for 3,500 yards or thereabout this season. Look at the teams they've beaten barely and the teams they've lost to over the last 5 games. Okay. Look at the Broncos' last 5 games ourselves. Started with Green Bay, right? Okay. You say, well, they're just Green Bay, but they're up and coming. They've been making a comeback of their own in the NFL. Kansas City, holy crap. We finally found a way to beat Kansas City. That says something too, right? That was a definitive win at home, 24-9 against the defending Super Bowl champs. The Texans haven't played anyone that was even remotely close to making a deep playoff push. Maybe Cincinnati, but again, I don't count them because Joe Burrow wasn't there. Let's see. So we go on the road to Buffalo. Now we all remember what we heard before the Buffalo game. Broncos don't have what it takes. Broncos aren't going to be able to beat Buffalo on the road at home. Primetime football. What do? We took care of business over there, right? So here's a tough team that we were able to go on the road and beat. I love it. Then we got Minnesota. They said we're not going to beat Minnesota. The Pastronaut is going to demolish the Broncos. What we do? We effectively broke them. Okay. The Vikings, as far as I know, don't even know who their quarterback's going to be after the bye week. We broke the Pastronaut. This defense is for real. Then what we do? There's no way we're going to beat the defensive, the best defense in the league. There's no way we're going to be able to stop Myles Garrett. All these guys, right? This team, the Cleveland Browns, has the defensive player of the year more than likely. We're going to be able, we're not going to stand a chance against this guy. What do? We go out there and we whomp them 29-12. So why in the world does ESPN come up here and say, no, let's look at the past history. Let's look at these two teams. Yeah, the Texans have a 55% chance of beating us. Keep sleeping on us, ESPN. Keep sleeping on us. I'm sick of this. You guys should be too. We are on this huge win streak coming back from 1-5. We are on the doorstep of being in the playoff picture. And they're going to say that this team, the Texans, did anything worthwhile so what? They got CJ Stroud. Yeah, they're beating teams. Great. They're not beating anybody. They're not beating anyone noteworthy. Well, meanwhile, the Broncos are just showing up everybody that you keep saying that we're going to lose to. I don't know, guys. This is absolutely ridiculous. Hey, guys, put in the comments. I don't want to talk to myself. Put in the comments what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think about this upcoming game. What are some of the matchups you're looking for? What are your score predictions? I want to hear from you. Yes, my mic is on. I'm sitting here thinking maybe my mic's not on. Keep it coming, guys. I want to hear what you guys have to say. But that's what I'm thinking. Like, look, I don't understand why anyone can say the Broncos are not favored in this game. I just don't. This defense is for real. Now, can we go out there and lay an egg? For sure. It's always happened any given Sunday. But if this defense plays the way they have been playing, this Broncos defense should have no problem against CJ Stroud. And then the story that's going to come after that is how broken CJ Stroud really is. He's not that big of a name. He's just a first-year quarterback that doesn't know how to handle real playoff-type pressure. Let's talk about that as well. That's great that the Houston Texans are turning things around. They're coming together, and they're seeing that. In fact, we'll take this down. They're seeing that they were supposed to be really terrible this year. First-time head coach or new head coach, new coaching staff, first-time quarterback. That's the Texans were going to struggle. They have been winning games. I'm going to give them credit for that. To win games in the NFL is tough. Okay, but. So what? Look at the teams they're beating versus the teams we're beating. Very, very different. Night and day difference. Furthermore, one team, the Broncos, have been struggling for 7 years. 7 freaking years in and out. Every season, this Broncos team has struggled, to say the least. Right? They are finally tasting success. They are finally seeing the positive outcome of all this work. They're finally seeing Sean Payton's system come together. They're seeing these guys, these young guys on the team, really stepping up as well. This is fascinating to see. These guys are feeling it. They know how big this is. They've missed out on playoffs. They've had to watch the playoffs from their couches year after year after year. They've been basically eliminated from playoff contention mid-November the last 3 or 4 years. So that by the time they get to this time of year in December, they're not playing meaningful football. They're basically playing for their job and seeing if they can get one more win out of the year. Okay, this team is finally got to be feeling it, ready to go to the playoffs, and that starts with beating Houston. Houston does not have that kind of drive. I'm sorry. There's no drive of, well, we just haven't, this team, these players haven't been to the playoffs because they keep missing it the last couple of years. Now they're finally turning around. That's the Broncos story. The Broncos story is this team got dropped a lot of points on them by Miami. I'm not going to bring up we know what it is. But since then, and since going 1-5, we've turned this thing around and we are beating incredibly tough teams. Again, let's look at this, guys. We beat Kansas City. We beat Buffalo. We beat Minnesota. We beat Cleveland. And now they're saying the Broncos are going to beat Houston. Oh, there's no way the Broncos are going to beat Houston. Bullshit. Bullshit. You have got to start respecting this team. And if you don't feel that on the other side of the screen, I don't know what to tell you. This is absolutely absurd that we're sitting here, that the legacy media, whatever, ESPN, all these guys are totally counting out the Broncos. Why? Because CJ Stroud? Who has he really faced? What challenges has he really freaking faced in the NFL? Now, we got Russell Wilson. We got freaking Russell Wilson. We got Cortland Sutton. We got Jerry Jeudy. We got Brandon Johnson. We got all these guys. We got Samaje Perine. These guys are hungry for playoffs. Let's go. How you guys doing, Andrew? Keep tanking lockdown. That's going to be a big one for the win today. Need to prevent the big plays. Now, here's the thing, Andrew. Completely agreed. I do see Houston, giving them some enough respect. I'm not saying that CJ Stroud is a washout, that he's a nobody. He has put up good numbers this year. I'm just saying he's been doing it against teams that, I'm sorry, I don't nearly as respect as the teams that we've beat over the last 5 weeks. But they are very talented. Okay. I think where this game is going to come down to is who wants it more, who's more hungry for the win. That's the Broncos, handily, by 300%. That's the Broncos, but they're still a talented team. And I wouldn't be surprised if they get 1 or 2 on us. Big, deep plays that, maybe lead to scoring drive. This offense is not going to be able to take half of the game off. The Broncos offense is going to have to go out there and be consistent and chewing at the clock, putting points on the board, keeping the ball out of CJ Stroud's hand. If we can do that, great. That's fantastic. I do believe we're going to win the turnoff battle. That's because that's just what we do now. It's ingrained in these guys to go after the ball. We're getting 2 or 3 turnovers a game. This is going to be a great game, Shane. It's going to be a great, great game. Right? But this is absolutely ridiculous that we're at this point just saying, oh, there's no way the Broncos are going to win. Get out of here. Okay? Man, if I had money to bet, I'd bet all my money on the Broncos. I mean, I'm not going to do that because that's silly. And I'm not saying anybody else should do that too. Make sure you all bet responsibly. But this is absurd. I don't know how you can compare these two teams and say Houston is the better team. Why? Because they didn't lose terribly to the Miami Dolphins? Is that really the only difference? Again, let's look at this. Is that the only difference between these two teams? Is the Broncos had a historically terrible game against Miami? Because since then, we've been putting in the work. We've been putting in the work against these hard teams, these good teams that are supposed to be making deep playoff pushes this year, and we're winning. Look at what Houston's doing. Okay, great, you're beating teams, but Arizona ain't going to the playoffs. Cincinnati, if they go to the playoffs, they're going to lose right away because they don't have a quarterback. Tampa Bay is not going to playoffs. You lost to Carolina. They're the worst team in the league. Jacksonville, okay, yeah, you lost to Jacksonville. They're going to, be very decent in the AFC playoff picture. So you lose to the good teams and you're barely beating the bad teams. We are not playing bad teams. We are playing top-notch NFL teams, playoff teams. You can even include Green Bay in there because they're making a push in the NFC playoff picture. So one of these two teams is very different than the other. Well, they're both very different than the other. One team has a lot to build off of. The other one, they're playing good football. And it's being blown out of proportion because it's a rookie quarterback. Look, guys, that's what I'm saying. I just don't see how this is going to be a game in which Houston goes out there and rolls over us. There's just no way. This Broncos team has way too much fight in them. They have way too much talent. They've been through the ringer way too many times to get to this point. Are you telling me the Broncos are going to get to this point for the first time in 8 years? The most important game they've had since Super Bowl 50, which not a single player on that team was there for Super Bowl 50. But still, the number of years that these players like Garrett Bowles, like Cortland Sutton, these guys that have been with this team through the crap that has been the last 7 years, they're going to get to this game and they're just going to say, we don't care. Or, we're not going to go out there and put in 110%. I don't believe it. I absolutely don't believe it. These guys are feeding off of each other. If I'm the Houston Texans, I should be scared that you're going to go out there and drop the deuce against the Broncos. You're going to go out there and lay an egg. Okay? I'm just saying, I think the Texans have a whole lot more to lose because they're the ones being touted around as the NFL, the AFC's, wonder child. Get over it. Get out of here. I'm serious. I'm saying right now, the Texans aren't nobody, but they're not somebody. They're not. Let's see, Shane, how you doing? I got Wilson Sutton in my DraftKings lineup. Let's go. I like it. That's a good choice for today's game. Bob, how you doing? What's up, Broncos? Former Ohio State quarterback. Oh, nice. When'd you play, man? When was that? And how's Ohio doing so far this year? They didn't get in the playoffs, did they, though? I'm more NHL than college. I'm still waking up, guys. And if you can't tell, I still have my voice back from last week's game. That's really annoying. Might have been screaming a little too loud. Okay. So let's talk about some score predictions here, guys. We're about 45 minutes away from kickoff. I went on my rant. Hopefully you guys agree and feel this too, that, look, I just don't see where all of the hype from the Texans is coming from. Maybe the fact that they're the home team should give them a slight edge. But I'm sorry, it's not a 55 to 45% chance for the Houston Texans. I just don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong, and I'll eat crow. If Broncos go out there and lay an egg, I'll eat crow. I'll come on the show and I'll say, I was wrong. I'll change my tune about the Texans and I'll change my tune about the Broncos. But I do not see how a Sean Payton-led Broncos team, who's on a 5-game winning streak, coming back from 1-5 in a game that is probably going to decide if they get in the playoffs or not, they're just going to go out there and play flat. Sorry, that is much more likely on the Houston Texans side. They don't know what they're playing for. Let's look at Jerry Jeudy. All he has done in his life is win. From Alabama, PS2, Pat Surtain, growing up high school, college in Alabama, all they've done is win. And now they come to the Broncos and they haven't been winning. All of a sudden, in the last 5 weeks, they're winning again. You think those guys are going to go out there and just be like, man, these guys want a championship like none other. I think these guys want a championship more than anybody else on the Texans combined. They are craving and hungry and starving for the playoffs in a way that the Houston Texans just are not. Because the Houston Texans haven't gone through the same crap as the core team has, like the Broncos have. The Houston Texans haven't gone through 6 or 7 head coaches, basically, in the last 6 or 7 years. I know that's an exaggeration. Don't quote me on that as saying I know that's not accurate. But the fact of the matter is one team has been through a whole lot more and has come back from a whole lot deeper hole and are beating a whole lot better teams than the Houston Texans. Houston Texans were supposed to be crap this year. The only reason people are talking about them is because they're playing decent football when they were supposed to be the worst team in the league. Great, you beat Arizona. Whoop-de-frickin-do. Broncos, meanwhile, beat Cleveland, Minnesota, Buffalo, Kansas City, and Green Bay. Oh, the Texans, you lost to Jacksonville. Weird. Meanwhile, Broncos have beat Cleveland, Buffalo, Kansas City. I'll say it again. We're beating the teams in the AFC that we need to beat. Texans aren't. And again, you can throw that Cincinnati versus Texans game out because no Joe Burrow. Like, whoop-de-doo. Derek, how you doing? 30-20 Broncos. I love it. Anthony, 27-14 Broncos. Let's see. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Look, and I'm not saying that CJ Stroud is not a quarterback to be respected. I'm not saying that he's not going to be a good quarterback. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying when you look at the two, I don't see how you can compare a quarterback that's gone out there and beat C-rated teams compared to the Broncos who are beating the best of the best in the NFL and say that the Houston Texans are someone that we should be really admiring and enjoying right now versus the Broncos. Keep sleeping on us. Keep sleeping on us. It's a driving factor for us now. They don't respect us. And man, those players, I hope when they go out there and the Broncos see how much orange is in the stands today, that they just get extra riled up, man. Extra riled up. Andrew, 31-24, Denver wins. I love it. Shane, 24-17 for the win. Dan up here, 27-24 for the Broncos. Love it, guys. Look, 10 more minutes before we're going to cut and get ready for the game. There's really not else, some of the things that I'm really watching for, we're going to have to see what we do with the pass rush. How is Vance Joseph going to scheme against this? We got a quarterback in CJ Stroud where he's very capable of beating you with your feet, but he's very talented with his arm. So you have to find a way. You can't let him sit in the pocket for 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds. He's going to beat you. He's like Mahomes in that way. He's not Mahomes level, but he is Mahomes-esque in that he will beat you from the pocket. And if you let him get out of the pocket and run around, either beat you with your legs or he'll extend the play and find something. So I think you have to approach this game like you would playing Mahomes. You've got to get to him. You've got to keep a spy on him. You've got to make sure that if he starts running, I'm sorry, you hit him hard. Make him think twice about running next time. Maybe you get a flag thrown on you for it, but guess what? He's going to think about it again a second time. So the defense is going to be really key to this. And if you get pressure on CJ Stroud early on in the game, that's what's going to help create those turnover possibilities later on, right? And we're going to have to find a way to win the turnover battle. We're just going to have to. It's part of this team's winning culture anymore. It's part of the team's success. And people say, is it sustainable? Maybe not. But you got to get at least 2 turnovers today, I think. We have to win the turnover battle by at least 2 because you have to stop CJ Stroud. You have to stop the Houston Texans offense. And if you can't do that, well, then just like in any game, it goes without saying that you're probably not going to win. But this Broncos defense, I really hope just goes out there and just obliterates them, just shuts them down. Just says, Houston Texans, who? Get out of here. I want to see a 70-20 game ourselves. Let's put 70 up on Houston. Let's shut everybody up about the Broncos. Obviously, that's not going to happen. We're hoping for the Broncos to score 27. I'd be happy if they scored 30. But I think this Broncos defense can keep the Texans to, under 20 points. Texans scored 21 last week. They scored 21 in their win against Arizona. They scored 30 against Cincinnati. Whoop-de-doo. They don't have much going on. They scored 39 against Tampa Bay. Okay, they don't have much going on defensively. Carolina, they only scored 15 points against Carolina. Meanwhile, the Broncos are getting better. 19 against Green Bay, 24 against Kansas City, 24 against Buffalo. Minnesota was a tough game, 21, but then we came back with 29 points last week against Cleveland. I'm sorry, one offensive scoring a whole lot, consistently more high numbers and allowing less points scored against them than the Texans. I don't see how from a betting point this makes sense to say the Texans are favored. Unless you're saying that so that you hope that, Broncos come out and you actually, I don't know. I don't get it, guys. If the Texans were putting up 30 plus every single week against the teams or type of teams that we were playing, I'd say we'd have a problem. But that's not the case here. Broncos are beating good teams and putting up good points against good teams. We put 29 points up against the defense of the best defense in the league, quote unquote. Meanwhile, the Texans can't beat Carolina. Texans can't beat the Jaguars. Whoop-de-doo, they barely beat Arizona. I'm going to keep going on about it. One team is good, one team is decent. I'll let you decide who's who. Okay, guys, we're about 35 minutes away from kickoff. Let's get ready for it, guys. Hey, don't forget about all of our other content, including the Halftime Hash Show, which starts at halftime. I'll be live here for that. We'll break down what we're seeing in the first part of the game and what the Broncos do in the second half. Don't forget about post-game podcast, pre-game podcast, Tuesday nights, Denver Broncos OWBN show, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. We got you guys covered. A lot of football still to be played. Look, if the Broncos lose, our chance to the playoffs up under 20%. Doesn't mean it's impossible. 20% chance in December is still about 20% better chance of the playoffs than we've had the past 7 years. Okay? But this is a really important thing. I just really, really hope I'm right, and I see this out there with a hunger, and a fire, and passion they haven't had before. Hey, we got a special guest here. I'm gonna go and bring him on. David, man, I don't know what you're seeing, but I'm looking at this, and I do not see how the Texans are seriously favored over the Broncos.
That's fine. Listen, there's a media perception, there's noise outside. All of the outside analysts, with the possible exception of Mina Kimes, because shout out Mina, she put out a really good video on the Broncos this week, if you guys didn't see it, looking into the improvement a little bit deeper than a surface level analysis of the Broncos turnaround is based on defensive turnovers. And okay, great. We have to have another conversation about how the Broncos offense has been decent all year. They've been really improving the last few. Listen, Kev, all of this point is to point to the fact that we are sorry that there's been no pregame podcast this week. We want to just apologize for everybody on the pregame podcast. Jared's been moving. Spotty's, I think,
busy time.
Yeah, it's a kind of a busy time, and we will be back next week. We promise you that, because all of this analysis would have been on that podcast. Anyway, back to your original point, Kev. The Broncos have a great chance to win this game. I think they have a chance to open up the passing game offensively. I don't know if they'll do it because their run game has been so efficient. But I think that if you see them do that, you shouldn't be surprised at all. This Texans defense is really well coached, but they are still really up and coming. They have not played a good stretch of passing offenses in, I don't know, the last month and a half. And yet,
I don't see it. Yeah.
Right. And yet they are still a bottom of the league defense. They're still like a bottom 20 defense. So I think that they have holes to exploit there. And I think that this Broncos team, this may be a high scoring game if you do see that turnover luck start to fade away. But I think the Broncos can actually keep up in a game like that. I think this is really going to be must-watch TV, guys.
Well, this is where I don't want the Broncos just to score a lot of points because obviously we win. But what you're going to see there, especially when you're talking about the turnover battle, I want this game to be put on CJ Stroud's back. I want that pressure to be put on him because he hasn't faced that kind of pressure against this kind of team in this kind of playoff environment and playoff crucial team. He hasn't faced that before. And our backfield, they are chomping at the bit for that chance to get out there. And that's going to create more turnovers and, just shut them down even more. And so I think if that happens, it plays right into our strengths.
Right. Absolutely. And I know this Texans team is careful with turnovers. It's hard to get them to turn the ball over, but I think our defense is going to be opportunistic. I think they're going to be trying to strip balls away, even if they're not successful. I think it's just, everybody's been talking about how great this passing offense is for the Texans. And Nico Collins, Tank Dell, CJ Stroud, that's potent, but no Dalton Schultz for them. And the Broncos have Pat Surtain and Justin Simmons and Jaquan McMillan and PJ Locke. And it is suddenly a secondary that looks like they're playing really, really well. And I think that the matchup is better for the Broncos defense than people are giving us credit for.
I'm okay with that. It frustrates me as a fan. But I get it. At the same time, the players have to be feeding off of that. The players know the talk. Like, they don't let it impact them, but they got to be like, they're counting us out again. Let's go show them wrong, guys. Let's go prove them wrong. Let's go out there and just fucking demolish it. I really hope that's what's playing into it. And I'm ready to see him go out there and destroy the Texans, man.
Well, I'll tell you, and it's honestly if they do win this week, I don't think there's going to be any more of the Broncos can hide, or the Broncos are hiding. The Broncos are the underdogs. So if we win today and a couple of other things happen. The Broncos are officially in the playoffs. I love it, Jerry. Team Puffball for life. Go Broncos. But yeah, no, so I think this is your last weekend, Broncos country, to say the media hates us. We're the underdogs. We got the target on our backs. If they win, they're on notice.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not going to get easier for the Broncos by any means, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got a lot of tough games coming up. They got the Chargers twice. Chargers are going to try to spoil our fun.
Mm-hmm.
Detroit is beatable, but they're going to be looking for a big win themselves,
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. When you're playing the way the Broncos are now, you have to look at all of these games as winnable games, because they are. You look at all of these teams and they have their flaws. Detroit's pass defense is kind of god awful. Outside of Aiden Hutchinson, they have no corners. The Chargers are the Chargers. The weird things happen in Los Angeles when we go to play there, but just as many weird things happen when they come to play here. So yeah, you look at all of these games and you look at them and you say the Broncos could legitimately win all of these games if they play the way they've been playing lately. And you look at them all and you say, okay, but if they backslide just a little bit, they could lose 3 or 4 of those games super easily. And yeah, we'll see what happens today, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Look, it's going to be really exciting. I think this team's, they're ready to show up, show out. Broncos country. I've seen tons of pictures and videos from Houston down there. Fans in all orange all over the place. I'm excited to see how orange the stadium is, man. And you got to remember next week too against LA. That's basically going to be a de facto home game as well. There's a lot of positivity going on within Broncos country.
Yeah.
And I just hope it carries through to the team on the field today.
Yeah, very much so. I think they've got it. The mindset that the guys are in, you hear them talk about it. I think they are locked in. And that's the most important thing right now. I think Sean Payton's got them all pulling in the same direction. So,
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, David, what score prediction you got for us, buddy?
Man, I love Jerry's 35-17. It's bold. I don't know if I'm going to be that bold, but I am going to go 28-20. I think you do see another high-scoring game from this Broncos offense. I don't know if they're going to full throttle 300-yard passing day for Russell Wilson, but I do think he's going to hit at least 1 or 2 deep balls to Marvin Mims that haven't been there. And yeah, I think they're going to light up the scoreboard a little bit. Love it.
Mm-hmm. Love it. I'm thinking the same thing. I think there's going to be some defensive points there as well, but mixing some field goals. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a 27-17 game.
Mm-hmm.
I think this defense is going to keep the Houston Texans under 20.
Okay.
And that's just going to be, once they start relying on that passing game, our passing defense is going to shut them down.
All right. So, I love it.
Hey, buddy, I appreciate you hopping in. Again, for everybody else out there, we'll be live during the halftime hash. Probably not going to do a show tonight, but we will be doing the show tomorrow night for the post-game podcast. So make sure you check that out. Cool, guys. Look, Broncos, Texans, get ready for it. Get ready for it. Are you just so excited? You're just like, I got to go.
Yeah, I'm pressing buttons here. I don't even know what's happening.
Jeez. Well, hey, David, I appreciate it, man. Anything else for Broncos country before we head on out?
I don't think so, guys. I think there's nothing left to say except for very strong.
Go Broncos. Take care, everyone.
Take care, guys.